Addison Smith, again, this is what I mean, massive contributor, for $1.99 says, are we stuck with woke movies? So I think this is, are we stuck with woke movies? I think this is an interesting topic of debate, isn't it, at the end of the day? And I've always said for quite a while that the pendulum is going to start swinging. And I think as well, we haven't really seen it yet, but I think we're starting to see the pendulum on the precipice of swinging back now. Sound of Freedom is part of that, for starters. I think unequivocally, that's part of it. And I also think, I think people mistake woke with sometimes as a moralistic message behind stuff, and people mistake that for being woke. But are you stuck with the woke ESG, DEI, whatever it is? Are you stuck with those kind of movies? I think we've still probably got another 2-3 years of it. But I think with the strikes, I think with the strikes that's going on, I think we're going to see that rapidly change. Do you have any further thoughts on this?
Yeah, you. Go ahead, Culture.
No, I jumped in there, and the reason I did is because I think that the stuff that's in the pipeline is the stuff we're stuck with. Because I mean, Disney is getting relentlessly mocked right now, and a lot of these companies are being relentlessly mocked for their intersectional feminism and their woke ideology and their identitarian stuff that they pummel people with. And I think the audience is rejecting it. And I think that's one of the reasons why Tom is right, is the death of the blockbusters, because of the audience is just walking away, and it's pretty easy to walk away from stuff that you don't enjoy. I mean, I'm not going to give you money to go to something I don't enjoy. Sorry.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, the only thing I don't necessarily agree with is I think we're already kind of in the midst of the final re.
Yeah,
Nate, like everything else you said, I agree with you completely. Yeah. And Culture's right. Like there's going to be some stuff on the other end of this, but you're also right. Like we're still going to get things that some people are going to perceive as woke, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be certain elements there, but what you're not going to see is this endless push in a propagandizing way. Is that the word I'm looking for? Maybe.
Yeah, that worked. Yeah. Propaganda.
Because I mean, I just posted this last night or this morning or whatever you want to call it, depending on your time zone. A clip from a more recent interview because Bill Maher is somebody who's known as a very liberal pundit. Some people hate him to death, but you know what? He's one of those few guys on the left who doesn't have horrible takes all the time and kind of gets it. And he's actually been hitting the nail on the head a lot lately, and he's really been hammering home this idea that we need to kill this woke agenda. He is really, if you start listening to him, he's starting to sound like us.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's getting to that point. And what I love about him and what he's doing is he'll get these guys in there. And what I mean by guys, I mean like celebrities on this podcast that he has. This isn't his normal show. This is his podcast where he sits down, he gets stoned and drunk with friends, basically. And he talks to these celebrities and he's getting the truth out of them and getting them to see things in a little bit different way. And this is what's going to make a difference. Him getting those guys to see it, getting them to admit that it's a problem, getting everybody on the inside who's a big part of this cult mentality to realize that we're in a cult. And he's bringing these specific points up. Right, that I'm talking about right here. Go ahead, Culture. Yeah,
isn't he? No, I'm going to ask you this, Tom, to add to this because I want to hear your perspective. He's basically drafting off of Joe Rogan at that point, right?
Possibly, but my point is that he is somebody who's right on the cusp or outside of that group, to where if he's getting them to talk about it, they are going to be talking about it. People on the inside are going to be talking about it. As soon as these celebrities start to realize that this is not working and people dislike this kind of stuff, then it'll start to change, because those are the ones who people are going to keep following in Hollywood, right? Because that's the thing. A good portion of these people, at least 50, 60, 70% at best, are probably not even in line with most of this stuff or don't agree with it. But the one thing we all hear the most, and I'm sure you hear it, Nate, from people you talk to, and I know Nick and Andre and Culture and I, we've all talked to certain people inside the industry and around the industry, and a lot of them all say the same things. They've had enough of it, but they're afraid to say anything. They can't say anything, because if they go against one person who's higher than them, that person will end them. And that means you're done. You're out of the building. You will not get another job anywhere in Hollywood, because they will send a message to all their little woke friends not to hire you. And it's happened to certain actors, but it's getting to a point where there's some actors that are kind of pushing into it. And you're right. The pendulum has started to swing. Sound of Freedom is almost like a swing in a far direction to the right. And I've come to a point where, and Andre kind of knows what I'm talking about, where I've started to compare that movie to the way things were in the late 60s, early 70s, when we had movies like Dirty Harry and Death Wish start to come into play. And Hollywood and the critics didn't like those kind of movies, but the audience did, right? That was the big difference.
When was the last time you saw James Wood in a movie, Tom?
That's a great example of people that are suffering from this, right? Like there has been a lot of actors who are very bankable stars, who are very, good actors like James Woods and others who are not being used right now in Hollywood because they don't go with, their agenda.
Yeah. Andre, are we?
I think that's starting to change, is what my point was.
I think that Tom summed up perfectly right there. I don't really have anything to add, because here's like the thing: the wokeness, it didn't come on its own. It wasn't natural. It was never organic. It was always funded, and it's going to take a lot to undo it. First, the first thing that's going to happen is that it has to be unprofitable, to the point where earmarked funding isn't going to make a difference. We are there now. The lead purveyors of woke entertainment is Disney, and it's tanking the entire Disney company for the whole world to see. And it doesn't matter how much additional funding they get for their wokeness, because that additional funding is not going to cover the complete audience rejection company-wide, including the parks.
Well, Disney's dragging down everybody with them, Andre. Exactly, that's the other thing.
Exactly, yeah. And that's a big signal effect for everyone to see and for everyone to notice. And at the same time, one of the lead purveyors, BlackRock, well, they're more busy in Ukraine right now. I don't have time to deal with Disney and stuff. So this is a front in which they are losing, because the audience is there. And also, Bill Maher is really important, because Joe Rogan is already labeled as right-wing. But if he's able to do that to the people that need to hear it the most, namely the ones that purveyors of it, if he's able to convince them that, you know what, by doing this, you are completely wrecking your popularity around the world. You may be the hot shit right here, or everyone around you will think that you're amazing. But like, for instance, say Tom Hanks, he takes a trip on the street in Italy, and people are going to scream that he's a pervert at him. But are asking, how's Epstein Island?
Yeah.
And demonetized.
Nick, well, there you go. That's why we do super chats. Nick, thanks for joining. Are we stuck with woke movies? What's your opinion on all of that, bud?
I mean, this has been going on for a long time. And like Tom said, people are sick of it. I mean, WDW Pro just did a video where he was at the Disney parks and how pretty much empty they were, because people have pretty much turned their back on Disney. People are turning their back on Hollywood. People are turning their backs on all these actors and politicians, like all these people, companies. I mean, look at the state of Bud Light. Look at the state of Target. I mean, it's a cancer in the world. It's not just here in the U.S. This is a worldwide cancer that needs to be rooted out at the root of it. And, it's going to take people like us here, everybody in the chat, and people around the world to stand up and put their foot down and say, no, I'm not going to support this. I'm never going to go to Disney and give them money. I'm never subscribing to Disney Plus. I will say, every once in a while, if I find some Star Wars merch that I like, I will buy it, but it's got to be something that I really want. So I'm a little bit hypocritical on that standpoint, but if I find something cool that I like, I'm gonna get it. But before that, I was buying everything, tons of Star Wars merch and stuff, and I'm not giving these people my money anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not giving these companies my money anymore. These movies, this entertainment, none of it.
Yeah.
And all these people that stand up for this, and then they go to the Disney parks, take their fans, spend their money, do all this stuff. I don't feel they're genuine in their cause of standing up against this kind of thing. And so I'm taking a stand. I hope everybody else does. And like I said, it's a cancer.